and they're so dead to it that they're not thinking with their own mind. They have been deceived by Lucifer, Satan, the devil, to make them think that their thoughts are their thoughts when it's really thoughts that have been influenced by Satan. And Satan makes wrong fair seeming. He makes you think that wrong is right, and then gives you a reason to justify how wrong can be right. Is that right? You know, many people get caught up in adultery and fornication, knowing in their mind, this ain't right. You jump over so many hurdles of wrong to make that wrong right, that by the time you get caught, you trying to act like you didn't know you was doing wrong. And you give up so many excuses for why you just thought it was right. But God in the Bible asks Adam, who told you you was naked? Who told him that? That's a real deep question. Because when someone is doing wrong, especially in that kind of situation, adultery, oh, you didn't know that sister was married? No, I knew she was married, but she told me that her and her husband ain't together no more. Did they get a divorce? No, they're not divorced, but they not together, and he ain't been treating her right anyway. And she's been suffering all this time by herself. And you know, it didn't start out with no relationship. We was just vibing. We was getting along, and then somehow, you know, I realized that, you know, this was my soulmate. Here we go. But brother, she's married. Yeah, but they ain't together, brother. She has a contract that was done in holy matrimony. It's sealed. She's wearing another man's name. Yeah, I know all that. See, these every excuse you get is another hurdle you jump. You should have been in the Olympics because you running and jumping hurdles like crazy. So when judgment comes, because that's a judgment thing right there. All of us know when judgment hits, you can run whatever excuse you want, but you know in the consciousness of your mind, you know you was wronger than two left shoes. Is that right? At some point you gotta submit, but everybody naturally will be in denial first, and that's what it was with Adam. He knew he was wrong for eating from that tree. Eve knew she was wrong. They was deceived, yes. But once they was deceived and realized they was wrong, why lie to God? Why lie to God? And one of our great poets said, people lie to God every day. So what's to make you think they won't lie to you? That's my girl, Lauryn Hill. She was a great poet. Yeah, but it's true, right? People lie to God every day. Oh God, if you get me out of this, I swear I'll never do it again. I'll worship you forever. I will never, ever do this again. And then God makes a way for you to get out of it, but you forget it was God. You just lucky that dude came when he came and did what he did, because I would have never got. No, that was God. And then you turn around and you do it again. Is that right? So you lying to God every day. So who's to stop us from lying to each other? So why we get so twisted out of shape when our loved one or our children lie to us? Yeah. So we can be disappointed, but we don't allow that disappointment to overtake us. Disappointment is an emotion. You are people of God. God has emotion, but he doesn't allow emotion to control you. Is that right? So as we deal with this final call and the message from Minister Farrakhan to the president, this message is in this final call newspaper. You can also go on NOI.org and get the message, live and watch the minister as he gave the press conference. But I want you to make sure you're getting the paper so that you can read the articles and the truth. There's nothing in the final call that advertises anything of ill repute. There's no liquor advertisement. There's no undergarment advertisement. There's nothing in here negatively advertised. And you know, most people, the way they finance their papers through advertisement. Minister Farrakhan wants to stick so much to the truth that he's willing to make sure we sacrifice our dimes, our nickels, our dollars to print this paper unadulterated. That costs a lot of money. But what's our goal? To raise your consciousness. You're worth more than money. You're worth more than the diamonds that's in the earth, and the gold that's in the earth, and the oil that's in the earth. You know why? Because you are the chosen people of God. You may not know that about yourself. You just may not know, but you are the chosen people of God. Before you was born, before your mother was born, before your father was born, before your great-great-great-great-grandmother was born, God had already chose you thousands of years in advance. Because God is the author of time. And he knows what's going to come down the wheel of time because he predicts it before it happens, and then decides on whether or not he's going to allow it to happen. So you don't think that when you read the Bible and the Quran that our circumstance and condition in America and the whole Western Hemisphere coming through slavery is in these books? You don't think the prophets saw us and our ancestors being ripped from the shores of what they call Africa and brought into slavery and supplanted on all these different Caribbean islands and so forth, all the way down to America? It's in the prophecy, but it's been hidden. That's right. And we know when we look at the Bible, it has been transcribed and revised. That's right. Is that right? That's right? Taking out of its original language and put into another form of language. We're not against that, because everybody doesn't speak Hebrew or ancient Aramaic language, right? So it would have to be transformed from that language into an English language, or a language that the other people can understand. Yes, sir. But when you take it out of its original language and then you add to and take away from, see, that becomes a problem. Diligently transcribed by the order of King James. See, now when someone has to diligently transcribe something, there's some other work going on in between, because King James, you and I would have to know, what kind of character did King James have? Was he a righteous man? Was his intention to bring the purity of God's word to transform the people? No, he was a king. And he was arrogant. And he was nasty. And he was immoral. And what he wanted was to make sure that the people of his day worshiped him. How am I going to get you to worship God and me at the same time unless I transform myself through the scriptures in a way that you think you're looking at God? You think you're worshiping God, but I actually got you worshiping me. They say that he had 54 scholars work on transforming that Bible into the English language, and it took them 7 years. And one of them that was in that circle was Shakespeare. That's right. So the Bible reads in a Shakespearean language, doesn't it? And Shakespeare speaks in metaphors. Is that right? So when you're speaking in a metaphor, you're speaking about one thing, but it's pointing to another. That's right. Is that correct? That's right. Now, don't get me wrong, brothers and sisters. I didn't take up Shakespeare in school either. No, I didn't. You know. But I met one that met another one that met God, that gave me a breakdown of that language in the Bible. And I'm only saying that because you can be reading this, thus, though, thou, and all that, and be like, man, this right here is getting on my last nerve. And if it don't keep your attention, you're going to close it up, or you're going to skip over stuff, and then you won't understand a doggone thing and swear by Jesus. Just an ignorant worshiper. But speaking in metaphors, trees don't talk. Snakes don't talk. There are no dragons. I don't care how much you watch Game of Thrones. There's no dragons. See, these are all things that are described in the Bible. Is that right? A dragon with 7 heads. A beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Is that right? A dragon with 10 horns and a crown on each horn. How could you picture that? But then when they give you Clash of the Titans, you say, see, it's true. It can happen. And we have to laugh at ourselves, but it's serious that this is all deception.
That's right.
But if we look at it properly, and only God would be the one to teach us. A snake in the garden. Snakes don't talk. God is given the characteristics of human beings who have sunken so low that he can't even describe them as a human being anymore. So he calls them by their characteristic, a snake. But that same snake that's in the Genesis is all through the scriptures. By the time you get to Revelation, it's a dragon. Because it has gained weight and mass through its deceptive ways. Is that right? We're at that time now where we have to get a final call. A final call, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said to us in his message to the President of the United States. He gave him warning. But to us, black people, he gave us a final call. He said, as I'm quoting from his message, he gave a reason why he was giving a final call to black people and a final warning to the government of America. But why a final call for us? Because he said you must change the way you think and the way you act. Because the time has arrived for you to do better and be better, or suffer the chastisement of God until you submit your will. There's a lot in that. But it's a final call. We got to change the way we think.
That's right.
And we got to change the way we act.
That's right.
As it's written, as a man or woman thinketh in their heart, so are they. Is that right? This muscle called the heart pumps blood through the whole body. It doesn't think. But the heart of your thinking is in your brain. And those of us, not those of us, all of us can be read, if you will, by our actions and what we say out of our mouth.
That's right.
Because what we do with our hands is a manifestation of what we're thinking in our head. This is why it is written in the scriptures, in the revelation of the Bible, that those who would worship the beast, see, it ain't talking about worshiping a human being, worshiping a beast, that's a human being with characteristics of a beast. They would have the mark of the beast in their forehead and in their hands. For those of us that are old enough to know about the omen, we ain't talking about 666 being marked in your head. We're talking about the actions that you make with your hands that are negative and of ill repute, is a manifestation of how you think in your head. And that's the thinking of a beast. The thinking of the righteous, they have the mark of the righteousness in their head. And that's not so much dealing with the brothers who are of Islam and sisters of Islam who are bowing their heads on a prayer rug and you get that mark on your forehead. That don't really mean you righteous. That just mean you praying. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us it's better to teach us separation than prayer.
That's exactly right.
Is that right? Some people may be offended by that. We're not saying you shouldn't pray. But if you don't have a conscious knowledge of yourself and knowledge of God and knowledge of your enemy, then when you pray, for that moment you may be in a real peaceful mode until you step out into society or turn on the television, because that television, that one-eyed monster, is putting visions in your mind and my mind and subtle suggestions that will take away from all that you just prayed for. Is that right? But if you know, and I know, God when we see God and the devil when we see the devil, then when we make our prayer, we come up from our prayer and we strive to make our prayer work. Is that right? Because God will only help and save a people until they're ready to help and save themselves. He doesn't change the condition of a people until that people wants to change their own condition. So Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That first quote I made, that God doesn't change the condition of a people until they first change themselves, that's from the Quran. Jesus' statement is from the Bible. See how they both kiss one another? Yes, it does. Because you and I can't get our prayers answered unless we're willing to get up and go to work. That's right. Our connection to God is within ourselves. And when we audibly make an outright statement to God in meditation and prayer, then we're putting our thoughts out into the atmosphere. And thoughts travel on air. And thoughts travel at 24 billion miles per second. And since God is a live being, he can pick up on your thoughts as well as other righteous people, and they will come your way answering your prayer, and you won't even realize unless you know God. That as I made that prayer and got up to make my prayer work, things started coming my way because the God was working with me, and I knew he would be with me all along. I never got distracted or doubted one bit at a time. Now, there's not too many people out here like that. As a matter of fact, only 5% of the population think like that. 85% of the population are deaf, dumb, and blind, slaves to mental death and power, worshiping that they know not what. And then there's a 10% of the population who know God and are looking for God's coming and making sure they deceive 85% of the population, so that when the final call comes, many of the people that God loves will be caught up with Satan and die in judgment. Now that's very grim, isn't it? Yes, sir. But you know there's a reason why in the book of Revelations it says only 144,000 would make it. That's a small number when you compare it to billions of people around the world. 144,000? Brothers and sisters, you ain't got to be worried about that number, because God has come. And he's going to use that 144,000 to save the rest. He's turned that around, that the 144,000 would be the first of those saints that come marching in. But he's looking for those who will qualify to be in that number. And that's why we at Muhammad Mosque today. And that's why I'm on the rostrum today. And that's why we got a man like Farrakhan today. Because we're calling out people out of a lake of fire to see if you want to qualify to be in that number. Now everybody here want to be down with something. Who don't want to be down with God? Who don't want to be in that number? With the God that controls rain, hail, snow, and earthquake. With the God that knows the thinking of the enemy and the righteous before they think it. Who don't want to be down with someone like that? If you don't, you must be deaf, dumb, and blind. And so we want, by Allah's grace, to be able to help you with that. And that's why when we look at this final call, we know we got to change our way of thinking. We know the time has arrived for us to do better and be better. And if you're thinking, well, look, it's too late for me. I can't do this and I can't do that. And every time I try, I fail. Well, you're doing it by yourself. God said, when there's two or more of you gathered in my name, there I am also. You can't do this by yourself. It has to be group activity and individual activity. But the group gives the support to the individual. And at the center of it all got to be God. Would you not agree? For those of you that didn't say they agree, let me ask you something. Is there a school or a program out there, technical school, academic school, college, that you can go to that has a major in get yourself together? Who took that course? Because I want to know. Because I could have took this bow tie off. I didn't have to come into this. Y'all could have told me where the get yourself together school is at. Where's that at? That's going to stop the drinking, stop the smoking, stop the fornication, stop the adultery, stop the lying. Where's that school at? It's in Muhammad Mosque. It's in the church. It's in the synagogue. If they are teaching right. But if you think it's out there on the street, the formula for insanity. The formula for insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I keep saying I'm gonna quit smoking, but I keep buying packs of cigarettes. And even though I'm breaking off part of the cigarette and throwing it away to shorten up my... If it doesn't apply, let it fly. I used to do that. And then you know what I did? I started buying longer cigarettes. So when I would break it off, I'm still getting the cigarette that I normally would smoke, but psychologically I'm just duping myself that, look, I'm cutting down. Then I got to the point where I didn't have no problem with giving other people cigarettes because that's helping me to cut down. But yet I would go and be, damn, I ain't got no more cigarettes. I got to go buy another pack of cigarettes. That's insane. Now look, if some of this is hitting you, don't feel bad. I said in the beginning, sinners teaching unto sinners. Is that right? You know, I smoked cigarettes for 12 years. I quit almost 30 years ago. But I tried so many times before coming into the knowledge of God and couldn't do it. But when I got into the mosque, the cigarettes, the weed, the beer, the drinking, the chasing women, all that gradually just got put to a halt. First of all, they scared the hell out of me. Because of the law of God. Why we don't preach so much of the law of God in other houses of worship?
That's a good question, brother.
If I'm talking the law of God to you and somebody in this audience right now is saying, okay, I ain't coming back there, so?
That's right.
I did my duty by God. If you don't come back, that ain't bothering me. I don't mean so like I don't care about you, but I'm not going to hold my tongue of the truth to spare your feelings versus what God would do to me for not telling you what I know that he want me to tell you. Hell no, man. Look, you can go kick rocks on the beach all day. I'm going to tell the truth. I mean, look, I'm just saying, brothers and sisters. I got a good teacher. I just, that's where that is.
The best teacher in the world.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave a press conference on November 16th of this month at the Watergate Hotel. And, the last time he gave a press conference in Washington, D.C. was in 1989, October of 1989. So and he did one before that in 1984. And I'm talking about a major press conference. So this one was 28 years after the other one. And when I went to the Quran, in Surah 28 is entitled The Narrative. So here's a brother from God fulfilling scripture but giving a narrative of God and his message.
Come on now.
And so I looked in the narrative and I was looking to see what are scholars saying about this chapter called The Narrative. And the scholars say the prophet's likeness to Moses is the chief theme of this chapter. And the revelation of Moses is here spoken of as clear evidence of the truth of the revelation of the holy prophet Muhammad. Moses is the, pivotal person in dealing with that message. In the Bible, Moses is very important. I mean, the first 5 books Or the books of Moses. Is that right?
That's right.
And Moses is one who, really he brings civilization to the people.
Really?
And with the civilization he brings to the people, he's